Hey there everybody, welcome back to Mod School. I am the Gerbil, and this is, I think, my 5th video in a 12 character how to mod series where I'm looking more at individual types of mods rather than individual characters. And from here, I'm just sharing some of the characters that I think are frequently modded wrong, or that just I think are quite engaging or can really make or break the effectiveness of a team as a whole. So today we're going to look at potency, characters 12 that want lots of potency. Now, to be honest, there's probably more like 80 characters in the game that want a lot of potency, but I think you're going to enjoy some of these little friends over here, and you might be modding them wrong. I know I am. So I need to fix some of my mods. If you like any part of this video, I do encourage you, please give me a like and a subscribe button click down there, just please. These slides do take a fair amount of time to put together, and I always try to be as detailed and accurate as I can and acknowledge my mistakes when I do make them. So without further ado, please push those buttons and let's get started. Number 1. C-3PO. C-3PO is an often overlooked character because, well, he's got a really long kit, has 3 Zetas, and is rather old. However, C-3PO is what makes the CLS team really functional. If you take C-3PO out, the team really becomes a lot weaker because C-3PO is applying a bunch of debuffs, and one that I even forgot to put in here, he's applying expose. Whenever an ally, I think, attacks out of turn, I don't remember, I gotta look it up now, he applies expose on the enemy, which allows the next hit to do, I think, 20% max health damage to the enemy, which is how you greatly increase the damage output. It's not like CLS and Han and Chewie's aren't doing a lot of damage, but with that expose triggering, they're doing a whole lot more. But even more importantly, on his basic and his only special, he applies the debuff Confuse. Confuse prevents enemies from gaining buffs, it prevents them from getting turn meter, it prevents them from counterattacking, I believe. The third option it said, yeah, they cannot counter, they cannot assist, and when they get 3 stacks, the character's cooldowns actually increase every time C-3PO uses a basic. So you want to be applying the Confused debuff as much as possible, literally spreading it out across the enemy lineup. His special applies it twice, and the basic removes turn meter. It's not a lot, I think it maxes at 15%, but that is debilitating bar none. All right, number 2 on our list today is Jar Jar Binks. Now, it's a little early to say with absolute confidence that this is the way to go, but similar to how C-3PO applies Confuse, Jar Jar applies stacks of Frustration. What does Frustration do? Enemies cannot assist or counterattack. That sounds like Confuse. Whenever a character gains bonus turn meter, remove 2 stacks of recharge from the shield generator and then expose that enemy. Kind of sounds like C-3PO and Confuse. See, there's some parallels here. C-3PO and Jar Jar are actually quite a bit in common. But beyond that, Jar Jar has stuns, which can be resisted. He can inflict Death Mark, which of course can be resisted. So you really want to make sure that you have some solid potency on him. Even at Relic 7, his potency is only 73%. So a potency mod plus maybe a potency cross on him, get that potency up to about 110, 130%, and you'll probably see a lot more effectiveness out of him. Now, in reality, I'm considering even trying to push his potency up closer to 140, 150%. So I'm curious to see what he looks like with a triple potency mod set, but not so sure that it's that necessary yet. Next up is B2 Super Battle Droid. So Homeboy is a tank, and that means a lot of people instinctively are going to want to put defense mods on him or health with protection, and that would be a mistake. He actually does want the triple potency with potency cross. Why? If you look at his kit, his basic, his special, and his unique all have potency related things in it. His basic applies critical damage down, it applies target lock. Then if you drop down, to the unique, whenever B2 inflicts a debuff, all Separatist droid allies gain 5% turn meter. And now we're going to jump to his special, where he has an AoE that has a high chance of applying buff immunity on the entire enemy team. As if buff immunity by itself wasn't enough, if you land it 5 times, that's 25% turn meter across the entire enemy team. And then, whenever a Separatist ally is evaded or damaged, he has a high probability, 40% chance, that's high actually, to reduce his cooldowns. And why I say 40 is high is because with so many AoEs in the game, your GG team, you get 5 allies, that's 5 opportunities. Whenever someone hits you with an AoE, that's 5 opportunities that one of those 40% trigger, or 2, which means that he's going to be using that mow down AoE buff immunity over and over again, just relentlessly every turn. That's the goal. So you absolutely want him to survive with the crit avoidance. I totally agree with that. Protection primaries on whatever you can, but then you need that potency to land the target lock, to land the buff immunity, to pass turn meter to your team. Next up, number 4, Count Dooku. Now, Count Dooku actually has a 100% counter chance, which I didn't realize that until I made this presentation. 100% counter chance. Why that matters is because when he attacks with his basic counter chance, they have a 50% chance to inflict stun and ability block, and he has a 50% chance to attack twice. So the more potency you have on him, the more likely that every time somebody hits him, he will stun and ability block them in response. That's huge. And you know what that also tells me? While most people are, and myself, are probably putting a speed arrow on him, I'm wondering if a crit avoidance arrow would be better, so that he is able to absorb more hits and then just counterattack. You know, if you think about it that way, he doesn't really need to take turns. What he needs to do is stun and ability block on basic retribution. But his special does also say apply shock and stun with a 50% chance to apply it to 2 enemies, both of which can be resisted, which means you need high potency. Hey, number 5 on our list is Darth Sidious, who is wrecking the GAC holotables with his Datacron. If you don't have it, it's a lot of fun and frustrating when you still lose. Nonetheless, his basic applies healing immunity on your opponent, which is, you know, really good to put him on a squad with somebody like, let me see, who heals up really, really fast. Well, Hondo Onaka, who just constantly re-heals, or Phoenix Squad, who recover health and protection because of Chopper and Kanan. This guy shuts that down if you're landing those healing immunities. In addition, his special applies damage over time, and again, expose. And since it's an AoE, you want to land the damage over time and expose on the entire enemy. And then because of the Datacron, then he can spam that AoE every single turn. In fact, it may also be in the Omicron Territory Wars, but I haven't read that, and I don't care actually about Territory Wars Omicrons. I don't generally read them. If my guild says please get it, I will acquiesce. But my guild is so awesome, they don't tell us what to do. But nonetheless, with the Datacron, at least I know for sure, he can use his AoE every single turn, so he's triggering expose on every single enemy every single turn. That's gold. But if you don't have that potency, you don't land it. What is worth noting, though, is that he does have plus 50% potency and gains maximum health equal to his potency percentage. So if you can get his potency up to like 180, 200% at the start of battle, he's gaining 180, 200% health. Right? You want that health, especially if you're going to go in and try to one-shot enemy teams by himself, right? Now, when the Datacron goes away, he's probably going to be a lot less fun. Number 6, we got Echo. Basic, apply buff immunity to target enemy, and expose. Expose is the theme of the day, right? Echo is critically important on the Bad Batch team. Not only is he applying exposes on basic, he's also applying daze and healing immunity on the entire enemy team. Now, you want those debuffs to land. 5 opportunities for daze, 5 opportunities for healing immunity. Why? Because read down below in blue. Whenever a Bad Batch ally inflicts a debuff on an enemy, Echo, that enemy loses 8% protection. So if you hit the entire enemy squad, that's 5 instances, right? then that they would lose 40% protection, if I'm reading that right. My math could be wrong. I am not a Bad Batch expert, so let me know if I'm wrong on that, because that just seems like it would be insane, especially if you go on and apply the health down too, or health removal as well. But again, I'm no expert on Bad Batch. Now, okay, now we're getting to people who I think are kind of modded a little wrong. Now, R2 is really interesting. Almost everybody with, if you got Leia, R2 is married with Leia, right? These two belong together, and potency is more important than you think. Now, according to SWGOH, most guilds, top 100 guild players, are modding with health and offense, and I think the offense is a big mistake. Why? First off, let's start with the blue on the bottom. R2 shares with his rebel allies 10% of his maximum health, protection, offense, and potency. So if you're using 4 mods to only boost your offense and then sharing 10% of that 15% offense or whatever it is, it's a really minimal share. But if you put in 2 potency mod sets, then he's gaining like 40% or something potency, and then putting a cross on him also with potency, then he's sharing 10% of that. It's going to be a lot more effective for characters like Drogon, who stuns on basic, who applies burning, which through Leia's leadership, move over to the Leia icon there. Whenever a rebel applies burning, they gain damage immunity. That's big. So you want Drogon landing the burn on his special so he gets damage immunity. You want R2 spamming his burning mechanic as much as possible so that he gains damage immunity. If those two can't be damaged, the R2 squad becomes the Leia squad becomes way more effective. In addition, if the enemy target is burned, R2 is going to do 30% more damage. But if they don't have burn on them, he does not do 30% more damage. So the potency nets a much larger return on investment than would a 4 offense mods that don't do that much, honestly, because his offense is already low. And then under Leia's leadership, the way that the team works and stacks mastery and whatnot, R2's damage is going to be insane anyway. And the real damage dealer, no matter how you look at it though, is Drogon. So you don't need R2 to do a lot of damage. You need R2 to spread his buffs or his burning. You need R2 to spread his stats. So I would say 2 health and a potency, or health and 2 potencies. That's gonna get the most bang for your buck. All right, moving on. Dr. Aphra, another character I am not super familiar with because I do not have her, but I think that the triple potency set for her is absolutely spot on, as well with the cross, because her kit is just riddled with intensively epic debuffs, which can be resisted, right? Accuracy down on the start, who cares? But moving on, inflict breach and target lock. Now, for those who forget, breach by itself is 25% speed reduction and defense, right? That's huge, right? I mean, if you hit a GL with that, you're stripping off over 100 speed right there. Anyone else, it's going to knock them down slower than your team. In addition, she has an AoE, all enemies, increase the cooldowns, and inflict doubt on the entire enemy squad. Doubt. If you're curious what that does, they can't gain bonus turn meter, they can't gain buffs, they cannot recover protection. It's just intense. All right, moving on. Number 9, Logray. Why? This triggers me when the top 100 guilds are modding Logray with speed. I think that is, speed, and then protection and critical chance, and then they're crying about Ewok sucking. It's because he's completely modded wrong. Almost everybody universally mods Ewoks completely wrong and then cries that they're not good. Duh. It's like taking a hammer to put a wood screw into a wall, banging the crap out of it until you have a hole in the wall, and then complaining that the wood screw sucked. You used the wrong tool. Logray wants triple potency set with potency cross. He wants 140 to 160% potency ideally. Why? Because the Ewoks can be one-shotted with Nest, they can be one-shotted with Wampa. It's a max free banners if those go in there and get the speed advantage. But if you daze them, then and yes, you can daze a Relic 7, even Relic 9 Wampa and Nest. If you daze the Nest, you can time out the event. It's super awesome, especially if you just keep stripping away the turn meter. Same thing with the Wampa. You daze that Wampa and it is game over. The Ewoks will eat the Wampa for lunch. The General Veer's Imperial Trooper Squad will likely win against the Ewoks because of the speed advantage, but because Nissa, if they are an inexperienced player and they go for the mass AoE to daze through whether it's Piet or whoever, the Ewoks are going to gain a ton of protection up. And then I think in Territory Wars, Nissa will dispel it. Then Lograte dazes the troopers and it's game over. The troopers need the assists, they need the turn meter ramp. So you must get Lograde's potency up stupid high. All right, number 10, Mara Jade. Now, I've talked to her about her in some previous videos. Essentially, she inflicts daze on basic, stun and vulnerable on his special, tenacity down, which I don't think that one can be resisted. And then on her second special, all enemies inflict offense down, shock, and stagger, which means they lose all turn meter the next time they take damage. So she wants a lot of potency. It is worth noting that if Emperor Palpatine is the leader, as he normally is, then all Sith and Empire allies are going to gain 20% offense and potency. Now, I've seen a whole lot of guilds in Territory Wars running Starkiller Mara Jade under Traya lead, which is interesting, but keep in mind when you do that, you just lost that 20% offense and that 20% potency. And then you lose Palpatine's turn meter advantage from all of the debuffs passing on turn meter. So again, you want lots of potency. You do not want these debuffs to be resisted. You want the Palpatine turn meter, and you want to debuff the enemies. Number 11, Teebo, my man, my boy Teebo, who has a probably deserved bad rap. He's a tank that goes into stealth. I know, it's annoying, but there's several of those in the game, Juhani. So Teebo has the ability to remove 100% turn meter from the enemy on basic, and through Ewoks, there's 100 ways, it seems, to call him in as an assist. But I just want to point out here, Teebo has a very minimally known Conquest Galactic Challenge feat advantage for gain stealth, right? In Conquest, we constantly get gain stealth X times. In Galactic Challenges, we have the same thing, gain stealth X times. Here's the most awesome thing in the world. You put Teebo leadership, can be gear 1 or whatever, as long as you got the leadership maxed out. It's not a Zeta, it's just an Omicron. So you get the leadership, then you put in Sith Eternal Emperor, you put in Wat Tambor, you put in the Armorer, and you hit auto. Right? Well, you apply the tank tech, you apply the Beskar armor to him, and then you go full auto basic. What'll happen is for the rest of the clock, Sith Eternal should not die. I mean, keep an eye on it just in case. But for the rest of the match, he's going to take a turn. He's going to be faster because he's going to gain turn meter periodically, but every time he takes a turn, he has a better than half chance to go into stealth. So it's just like on automatic basic, it's just like stealth, no, stealth, no, stealth, no, stealth, no. Every other turn, basically, by the math, he's gaining stealth. You can get 100 stealths in one Galactic Conquest battle. I got 107, for example, this last round. In one battle. It was beautiful. And if I had been paying attention and actually managing it faster in the beginning, I probably could have got all 120 in one battle and just not even cared. Yeah, so anyway, just a little shout out to my boy Teebo. He is a little bit better than I think people realize. Last but not least, Biston and how you are modding him wrong. So Biston's basic applies damage over time. Cool. His special removes turn meter from the enemy equal to his potency. So at Relic 7, he has a base potency of 48, right? Wrong. See, most people have not remodded him since Adrad came to the board. And what happened is Adrad's leadership provides Biston 60% potency. 12% basically for each Rogue One ally. That includes himself. So Rogue One, 60%. Then Biston's unique says he gains 10% for each rebel ally. Oh yeah, all the Rogue One characters. So there's 5 allies, 50%. So 50 in his kit, 60 from Adrad, 48 base. At Relic 7, he's already 158% potency unmodded. So why put a potency cross on him and 3 potency mod sets on him? I mean, do you really need 250%-ish potency on an attacker? No. You need critical damage and offense. Seriously. At 158%, he's already removing 100% harm unit from the enemies. He's already going to be greatly outstripping most characters' tenacity. So his basic is going to do what it needs to do. His special is going to do what it needs to do. You could probably go with no potency actually at all. So while the video says characters that want potency, I just thought I'd point this one out. He's already got it. All right, folks, I hope this video was helpful. If it was, you know what to do. Push the like button, push the subscribe button, please, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.